Hello. So when I was a student back in India going to school, we lived in a small house. I would play with my sisters every afternoon when my mother used to cook dinner. One day, in the middle of our play, my sister paused and said, "It must be 5 o'clock now." I wondered. I said, "How did you figure that out?" Because see, there was no clock around. She was not wearing one. She smiled and said, "Look, there is a frog that hops into our front yard every evening at 5 o'clock. I was amazed. I said, "Wow, this little frog has a clock and can come to our house every afternoon at 5 o'clock. Little did I know that my sister's sharp eye on the frog clock would change my career. So several years later, I studied clocks, and now we know that every plant, every animal, even we humans, we have clocks. And it's becoming clear how this clock, we call it circadian rhythms, a 24 hours clock, have profound effect on our health and physiology. When we are born, our little babies, they actually don't have a fully functional clock. So they're not wired properly, so at random time of the day, they would go to sleep, they would cry, wake up, eat a little bit and go back to go back to sleep. So imagine, if we all did not have clocks, just like babies, then half of us would be crying and half would be sleeping. But luckily, by 3 to 6 months of age, babies have clocks, so they can stay awake all day and then can sleep throughout the night. And now we know that these circadian clocks present in different parts of our body turn on and off thousands of genes at different time of the day. And by doing so, they actually tune our physiology, metabolism, and mood to the right time of the day. For example, last night around 2 o'clock in the morning, many of us were in our deepest sleep. And then the clock prepared us to wake up by warming up our body a little bit, by pacing our heart a little bit more. And as soon as we woke up, opened our eyes and started our day, our melatonin level that makes us sleep went down. The stress hormones, the cortisols, began to rise. And the digestive juice and all the hormones that help us digest food, they began to flow. And after breakfast, when we stepped into the offices or school, our brain was actually at its peak performance to solve complex math and take critical decisions. And then in the afternoon, the clocks in muscles fine-tune our muscle tone and then improve our motor control, and that's the best time to hit the gym. And in the evening, as the sun goes down, then the clock prepares us to sleep. Our core body temperature falls down, the melatonin begins to rise, stress hormone goes down, and we go to sleep. This happens almost every day in a very regular fashion. But what is interesting is we have to reset the clock. Otherwise, my clock would be tied to India and I would be sleeping right now. And by learning what things in our environment tunes our clock, we'll have a better control on our circadian rhythm and on our health. We knew that light resets clock because if I put a healthy individual, normal person, or even a blind person who doesn't have any rod and cone in a room and shine bright light for a couple of hours in the middle of the night, that will screw up the clock and it will mess up the sleep-wake cycle. So for a long time we knew there is a light sensor that's in our eye that resets our clock, but we didn't have any idea what it is. So after almost a century, finally we found the clue from these little frogs. When you put a frog in bright sunlight, then some frogs will change their skin color, as if they got a sunscreen. And we found there is a light sensor in the frog skin, that's also present in human eyes. And there are nearly 5,000 of these blue light sensors that sense blue light in our surrounding and send that information to different parts of the brain. So what happens in the morning as we open our eye and start our day, this melanopsin, blue light sensor, senses light and tunes our internal clock to the local time. And then throughout the day it senses light, makes us more alert, makes us more happier, suppresses sleep. In the evening as the sun goes down, the light sensor is off and then we can go to sleep. So what will happen? Now imagine if we spend our all day sitting in a dimly light classroom or a long winter with cloudy sky, then this light sensor is not active anymore, and that can over long term drive us towards depression. And the flip side is later in night as we gaze into that rectangular pieces of glowing objects, also known as television screens, computers and phones, that activates this light sensor and messes up with sleep. But what is interesting is light is not the only thing that resets our clock. When it comes to rest of the body, it's the time when we eat that's actually more important. So in modern days, as we stay late into the night and eat again at night time, then the question is whether this frequent eating both during day and night messes up our clock and physiology and metabolism so that we become fat. So to find a clue, we actually looked into an experiment done in many labs, both in industry and academic. And that is, you take twin mouse brothers who are identical and then give them food. One gets either healthy diet or the other one gets high fat diet. You come back after a few weeks, then the mouse on healthy diet would be very healthy, whereas the mouse on high fat diet becomes obese. It is known. But what is interesting is if we look at what time of the day these mice eat their food, the mice on high fat diet, for some reason, they're addicted to that food. They eat both during day and night. Whereas the mouse on normal diet eats only during daytime. So what happens? The mouse that is eating diet only in its natural night time, they have a very good clock. The genes turn on all the time and turn off at the right time of the day. Whereas the mice on high-fat diet, the clock is messed up, so the genes don't turn on at the right time, or they don't turn off when they're not required. So that made us think whether it's the food or the timing or both that actually made the mouse on high-fat diet fat. So we did another simple experiment. Now we took mice which are identical and gave them two choices. One, they can eat whenever they want, and the other one were trained or disciplined to eat the same number of calories from the same high-fat diet every day, only at night time. And as the weeks went by, both mice eating the same number of calories, same high-fat diet, actually performed very differently. So mice which were not disciplined, they actually weighed around 50 grams. But the mice who had a little bit discipline on when to eat, they weighed 28% less. Most of their body weight loss was due to reduced fat. And if we looked into the liver, they're loaded with fatty liver. Whereas that entire disease was prevented by just timed eating. That's not the only thing that happened. Actually, these mice had much better blood sugar, blood cholesterol, and they were actually much more athletic. For example, they burned more energy, they had more endurance, and they could do complex motor control tasks. So essentially, what we showed is the time, and by training mice to be disciplined, we can actually prevent many diseases in mice. Well, the bottom line is when you eat may be as important as what you eat. But hopefully all these research that we're doing will one day translate into human. But let's imagine what will happen if everything that we did in mice translates into humans. Imagine a 13-year-old student going to school weighing 100 pounds. He has two choices, either to eat and live like many other students do, stay up all night, eat at random time, or have little discipline to eat only during daytime, the way we are designed for hundreds and thousands of years to do, and have a long night's sleep at night. So now fast forward, when this person becomes 30-year-old, starts a family. This is what might happen. The person on the top might weigh around 200 pounds and the bottom might weigh around 150 pounds. And what is more important is, we know obesity predisposes us to a variety of disease. And each of these diseases stays with us for lifelong. And the cost of treating and the cost of lost income from each of these diseases is almost $250,000. So now we can think that next time we go to take a bite, we can look at our watch, see what time it is, or in the night time we have to remember to switch off that light and take a good night's sleep. Thank you.